In 1990, a woman named Martha Lavonne Evans attended a wedding celebration near Astoria, Oregon. Surrounded by friends and the warmth of a meaningful event, she was part of a happy, memorable day. By the end of the night, however, she would be gone, her truck missing with her, and no verified trace has surfaced in the more than 30 years since. Her absence did not begin with chaos, danger, or public alarm. It began quietly, within the familiar routines of people she trusted. What followed has become one of the most enduring missing persons cases in Oregon's coastal region, remembered for its sudden turn, uncertain timeline, and unanswered questions. Astoria, a historic Pacific Northwest community known for its steep hills, coastal fog, and tightly connected neighborhoods, was a place where oddities rarely went unnoticed. In February 1990, when Martha stopped returning calls and did not come back to the wedding reception as she said she would, that absence stood out immediately. This documentary explores the complete timeline of her final known movements, the details from the night she disappeared, the emotional phone call that marks her last verified sighting, and the extensive efforts that followed. It is a look at a case shaped by incomplete documentation, early 1990s investigative limitations, and the enduring hope that someone, somewhere, still holds a missing piece of the truth. Welcome to Fatal Secrets of True Crime. Understanding Martha's disappearance requires stepping into the world she lived in, Astoria and the surrounding towns of Warrenton and Knappa in the early 1990s. This was a period long before smartphones tracked daily movements, before surveillance cameras were common, and before digital communication allowed investigators to reconstruct timelines with precision. In 1990, Astoria was a coastal community built around working docks, weathered buildings, and the rhythms of a region shaped by fishing, logging, and tourism. With fewer than 10,000 residents at the time, it was the kind of town where people recognized faces, habits, and routines. When someone's pattern changed unexpectedly, it drew attention. Martha was known as someone who kept a reliable routine. She was recognized in the community, familiar to many, and connected through her friendships and daily interactions. Her life reflected consistency, making the abrupt halt in her movements even more noticeable. The technology limitations of 1990 also created challenges. Without digital trails, everything depended on eyewitness accounts, physical searches, and handwritten notes. Calls were made from payphones and landlines. Gas stations did not always have cameras. And if a person drove into a rural area or wooded path, it was significantly harder to track. In that environment, Martha's disappearance became a case shaped by fragments, memories, sightings, and the limited documentation preserved from the early stages of the inquiry. The final day Martha was seen remains the most detailed portion of her timeline, thanks to information preserved from witness accounts and archived reports. On February 10, 1990, Martha served as a bridesmaid in a friend's wedding in the small community of Knappa, Oregon, located just east of Astoria. After the ceremony, the wedding party gathered at a local lounge known as the High Climber Room. It was a comfortable, informal setting, the kind of place where people celebrated life's milestones. The atmosphere was joyful, full of conversation and laughter. When Martha arrived at the lounge, she placed her purse inside the trunk of the bride's car. This detail is important. It shows she didn't intend to be gone for long. Her purse held essential items she certainly would have taken if she planned a long trip or intended to leave the gathering permanently. Inside the High Climber Room, nothing seemed unusual. She interacted with friends, spoke with members of the wedding party, and joined in the celebration. There were no early signs of distress or conflict. Everything about her behavior reflected her expectation that she would return shortly and continue the evening with the group. At around 9:30 p.m., Martha told her friends she needed to make a quick trip to Warrenton, a nearby town only a short drive away. She said she needed to pick something up and would be back within an hour. Her tone did not raise concern. She did not take her purse from the car trunk. She walked out of the lounge as if stepping away briefly. She left driving a borrowed brown 1984 Ford Ranger, a truck described as having numerous dents, a 7-Up sticker in the window, and Oregon license plate PNB 116. The next verified sighting occurred sometime afterward at a gas station outside Astoria. Witnesses later reported that Martha appeared emotional. She was using a phone and seemed upset and crying during the conversation. This is the last confirmed moment anyone has reported seeing her. From that point forward, Martha did not return to the wedding reception. She did not contact the friends waiting for her, and no one reported seeing her or the truck again. The Ford Ranger vanished with her. Despite decades of searching, database checks, vehicle tracing, and renewed inquiries, the truck has never been located. This single night, joyful, ordinary, and then suddenly interrupted, remains the defining moment in her timeline. And it is the moment investigators have revisited repeatedly, hoping that something overlooked might one day reveal a new direction. When it became clear that Martha was not returning to the wedding reception and was not appearing in any of her usual locations the next day, concern grew. Those who had spoken with her the night before felt that her statement about returning within an hour had been sincere. Her failure to reappear did not match her character. Authorities were notified, and the initial response focused on all the standard steps used in missing persons cases of that era. Officers spoke with individuals who attended the wedding and the reception. They gathered information about the truck she was driving, and attempts were made to identify her last known route. Local hospitals, lodging establishments, and intake facilities were contacted. Regional agencies were also made aware. However, the constraints of early 1990s record-keeping limited the scope of the inquiry. With no digital tracking, investigators relied almost entirely on interviews and physical searches. Those searches included roads between Knappa, Astoria, and Warrenton, as well as nearby pullouts, wooded edges, and water-adjacent areas. The sighting at the gas station remained the strongest piece of information. But without knowing who she called or why she was upset, the emotional context of that encounter offered more questions than answers. Astoria and its surrounding small towns reacted quickly. Word spread through conversations, workplaces, stores, and neighborhoods. People recalled seeing Martha earlier that week or at the wedding. Some checked roads they regularly traveled, hoping to notice something out of place. Flyers were shared. Conversations continued. Although community involvement helped build a clearer picture of her routines, no sighting emerged after the gas station. No one reported seeing the Ford Ranger driving through the area. No one recalled an abandoned vehicle matching the description. And no follow-up tip identified new leads. In a community where people typically notice vehicles, especially ones with recognizable details, the disappearance of the 1984 Ford Ranger became one of the most perplexing elements of the case. Many challenges faced investigators from the earliest stages. Without phone records, surveillance video, or broad communication networks, efforts to retrace her steps relied largely on verbal recollection. Small inconsistencies in memory and the natural passage of time made it difficult to pinpoint exact details. Additionally, the geography surrounding Astoria features dense forest, steep inclines, narrow roads, and water access points. A vehicle could go unnoticed in certain areas for long periods. Searches were performed, but coverage could never be completely guaranteed due to the terrain. As the days turned into weeks, the trail grew colder. Martha's disappearance gradually shifted from an active inquiry to an unresolved case file, though it never fully faded from awareness. With each passing year, the absence of answers has only deepened the significance of the case. The combination of an emotional last sighting, a missing vehicle, and a clear plan to return to the reception makes the disappearance particularly difficult to understand. Did she encounter someone she knew? Was the phone call connected to what happened later? Was she intending to return but unable to? Did she drive somewhere isolated? Could a roadway incident have gone unnoticed? Was there an event or conversation at the gas station that changed her intended route? Without the truck, each theory remains speculative. The passage of more than 30 years has not erased the impact of her story. Cases from that era sometimes learn new details decades later when land is developed, when water levels shift, when records re-emerge, or when someone remembers a piece of information they once dismissed. Martha's case remains open to possibilities like these. The disappearance of Martha Lavonne Evans highlights just how quickly a familiar day can change into a mystery. It reflects the investigative limitations of the time and the challenges faced by families and communities when someone goes missing without digital footprints or modern tracking. Her story also underscores the importance of preserving information and sharing awareness. Even decades later, a single recollection, a truck seen at an unusual location, a memory of a conversation, a road someone traveled that night, could provide the missing link. Cases like Martha's remind us that time does not diminish the importance of answers. Her friends, community members, and anyone familiar with her story continue to hope for clarity. If you have any information, no matter how small, related to the disappearance of Martha Lavonne Evans, the vehicle she was driving, or her movements on February 10, 1990, please contact the Oregon State Police Astoria Area Command at 503-861-0781, or submit information through Regional Tip Services. Even minor details may help piece together her final known route or lead to the location of the vehicle involved. This documentary examined the known timeline of Martha Lavonne Evans, including her final documented hours at a wedding celebration, her departure for a short errand, her emotional last sighting at a gas station, and the disappearance of the borrowed truck she was driving. If you follow long-form true crime, disappearance timelines, and missing persons investigations, please consider subscribing to Fatal Secrets of True Crime. Your engagement helps maintain visibility for cases that still need answers. Thank you for watching and for helping ensure Martha's story is not forgotten.